Hi there, Anna-Lena here. I'm back doing another video based on my experiences as a twin flame. Been 6 years on this journey, or in fact 33, because we knew each other when we were younger. So I do want to talk about ancestral healing work, what I've come to understand, how I uh, work with it, and how I try to release ancestral traumas working through me. And I want to share a couple of things that have happened on this journey and link it to some stories that I know from my mom's family and my own great grandmothers. So in my mom's family, there is a strong storytelling tradition. We tell stories, and my mom tells stories, her mom told stories. So I have come to view this as a great gift because it makes me feel a closer link and a closer connection to my ancestors. And of course, there are moms and moms and dads and dads and dads and dads a long way back. And I guess we've got pretty much 2,000 years of clearing to do. So this twin flame experience is very, very, very intense healing journey. So I want to share a story that I know from one of my great grandmothers, and I want to link it to what happened to me a few years back. I found myself in a situation where I had a financial breakdown, and a series of events led to that. From having a stress collapse at work, quitting my job as a teacher, and moving back with my parents for a while, and what happened was that I found myself in a situation where there were closed doors everywhere, and I ended up applying for unemployment benefits, and I got a long letter saying that I was not entitled to that. So that was the final possibility for finances to come in, and that door closed, and I was in a lot of emotional turmoil. And for a couple of days, I felt like nobody. I felt like if I disappeared from the face of the earth, I mean, nobody would care. And I literally felt as if I hit ground zero. And of course, that was the emotion. And of course, I know people care about me, and it's not really true, but I found myself still being so stressed that, going back to teaching, it felt too much, and I mean, I need the finances to buy food, to pay my bills, everything, and it wasn't coming. Nothing was coming in, and I couldn't look ahead and say, okay, in a month I will get paid. And I applied for work. I called places to see if they had work for me, and it was a series of no, 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 no. And my mom helps me through this period until I get work in a kindergarten, and I start getting some income from my audiobooks. And so anyway, my books is like my mission. part of my mission is to write. So there are quite a few months where my mom helps me. She helps me from her good heart. So, but still, of course, I feel embarrassed and my pride, and because after all, I'm 52 today. By then, it was before I turned 50. And I had never been in a situation before in my life where I depended upon anyone financially. Yes, I have had, oh, my life. I've had times where I was on unemployment benefit due to all kinds of circumstances. So then it sort of gets to a point where I think, no way, this can't be happening. It's like, what is happening? How come I find myself in this situation? Why? Then, I walk. I walk in the forest. That's where I find, release very often. And then I know this story about my great grandmother, and I feel emotional now when I share it. Hi there, I see you. So she lost her husband to the Spanish flu, and she had 3 little boys. The youngest was only 8 months. My grandfather was 2 years, and then his older brother was about 4. So she lost her husband to the Spanish flu, and she was left alone to provide for and to care for her 3 little children. And there was no security net as such. Now imagine the kind of turmoil, emotional turmoil, the kind of shock this must have been for her to be without any kind of financial support and to have 3 little children that she needed to care for. And she became sort of dependent on, from what I've heard from the story, a brother who went to America would send her money and would make it possible for them to get by, to manage, to have food, clothing, a place to live. And obviously she was a very good weaver. Do you see? She weaved and she could make an income out of that. So now I see that there is a link between how I feel in this situation. No finances coming in, and being dependent upon help from my family. So there's a very, very, very clear parallel to something I know that one of my ancestors went through. So now I have like a logic, I can see a logically parallel to it. And then emotionally, if there was a trauma in an ancestor that was never released emotionally, we become carriers of that trauma. So now I see myself as a person who's carrying the trauma from my great grandmother. And I see myself as the person who has the opportunity to look at it and release it. So how do I do that? For a long time, I try, Ho'oponopono. I am sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. The thing is that I need to change my vibration from within, from the shock and the turmoil of the experience, to change it from within, that it's no longer a state of being frozen. I mean, I have a long history of being frozen in this lifetime, to really feel from within, that you're worthy of abundance, you're worthy of living your dream, and to change from within. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the situation has changed. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're having lots of money come your way or anything, but still to change the vibration from within, that's the key. That is the key to changing your life. And to sit with your ancestors, to sit with them, to feel them, to honor them. To honor them is key. To honor what they went through, to honor the hardship, to honor the turmoil, the shock, and to honor that back then survival was probably a very, very number one. Maybe it is today as well. I think it is today as well for many, many, many people. But yeah. So honor them and change your vibration from within. In whatever way, do things that make you feel good. Care for yourself. Love yourself. Love your ancestors. Love yourself. And if you have anyone you can ask, if your parents are still alive, ask them, what you know about your dad. How was he like? How was your mom like? Unless you might remember your grandparents, of course. And then, if you can, go further back. So that was one story that I wanted to share with you. And then there's another story. There are many, but I choose the two of them. So this is also a great-grandmother on my mother's side. And she lost 2 children when they were young. From what I know is that there were 2 girls, and one was 3 to 4 years old, and the other was just a baby. And I know their names, but I have not been able to find their tombstones, their graves where they're buried. Maybe they were buried on the farm where they lived. I don't know. But this means that my own grandmother, she lost 2 siblings. And there is a parallel to the turmoil and the shock, and probably the blame, the feeling of should have done something, I could have done something. Imagine what it's like for a person to lose a child, that a little child dies. So remember, we are exactly the same emotional beings today as our ancestors. They love their children in exactly the same way that we do today. So I want to go back to when the second time when I met my twin flame. And I've spoken about this experience in one of my previous videos. And what I experienced then was that it was the worst rejection that I ever experienced on this journey. And I felt totally numb. I felt as if something inside me died. I basically felt that somehow that my life was over. And the day that followed that, I was held by angels. And yeah, it was a beautiful experience actually. So I can see a parallel, an emotional parallel to how I felt that something inside you dies. And I can also, there are parallels to my life also when it comes to this. And what I see is that emotionally I am going through the same thing as my great grandmother did. So she dies when my grandmother is 9 years old. And unless, these traumas are being healed, then we carry them. So this is what I see as a twin flame, or anyone. The work to do is try and find what's going on here. Are there any parallels? Of course there are. Of course there are parallels. And then to honor them. Sit with them. Feel them. Go places where she's special to you. Maybe you remember your grandparents. And then key is to change the vibration from within in any way, shape, or form that you can do that. So this is what I've come to understand. And I want to say thank you to my two great grandmothers for sharing the story. To all of you, have a blessed day. Thank you.